Okay, Ben here again, and today we've got a double whammy. We're gonna start off with Gamerant at Gamerant.com, as Rocksteady developer thinks Xbox Series S is going to hold back this entire generation of games. But first, I'd like to say two things I forgot to mention in the Gamer Health video, which is one, clean your room. Again, that's part of doing something different, and but just having a nice, tidy place to sleep or work in or game in is or think in is really helpful. And then what else? Oh, the reason I was unshaven is kind of for Movember. I can't do to promote men's health, but I can't go the entire month without shaving. But I can take as long as I can. And but yeah, men's health is important too, and that could be its own video in the future. Who knows? But back to the stories at hand. Rocksteady developer thinks Xbox Series S is going to hold back this entire generation of games. So, a senior developer at Rocksteady Studios says that the Xbox Series S console has hamstrung an entire generation of video games by Rhoda Young, published October 15th. Again, this is part of cleaning the room, trying to clean out my inbox, but it is pretty important right now, or at least it was a couple weeks ago. Keep scrolling, please. Thank you. Okay, a senior developer at Rocksteady Studios shared on Twitter that he believes the Xbox Series S console has hamstrung an entire generation of video games. A conversation has started online regarding game development following news that Gotham Knights, and that's the key release last month, will launch only supporting 30 frames per second on consoles despite PS5 and Xbox Series XS exclusive. This has prompted some to make strong statements regarding why some games may be constrained and making the Xbox Series S a prime target. And first of all, Gotham Knights, you may or may not know, spoiler alert, there is no Batman. So, Batman has died and it takes place after that, and you get to play as all of the people who supported him and want to protect Gotham in his stead. And that is exactly why it was not part of 31 Days of Batman, because not a Batman game. Okay, but I mean, the first fallacy here is that being console exclusive, it's constrained to 30 frames per second. Now, what they should do is take the PC development approach and have everything scaled. You get a performance mode, or they even do this on PS5 for some games. Performance mode or graphics mode. Alright, then this wouldn't even have been an issue. So obviously, these S would be constrained to the performance mode here. 30 frames per second and whatever graphics. But that should not be an issue constraining PS5 and Xbox Series X. If you had a sliding scale like PCs where you could change the resolution you want and change the frame rate you want. Boom. Done. But yeah, some game developers don't want to take that approach. So we'll continue reading the article and the next article and go from there. A post from Gotham Knights developer Fleur Marty on Discord is what started today's complex and controversial discourse. Marty explained that Gotham Knights would not feature a performance mode, a mode that usually sacrifices resolution and graphics features for frame rate. As such, Gotham Knights would only support 30 frames per second on consoles. Developer Warner Bros.' decision has been criticized by players who wanted Gotham Knights to support 60 frames per second, as all games should. If Dance Dance Revolution can do 60 frames per second on the PS2, then there's no excuse for any game in this day and age not supporting 60 frames per second. In a series of tweets, Rocksteady senior character technical artist Lee Devenald joined the conversation regarding Gotham Knights. At first, his focus is on addressing what 60 frames per second means and the trade-offs necessary to reach that. He says it's especially important considering we have a current gen console that's not much better than a last gen one. Well, whether or not that's true, do we really need much greater specs than the PS4? I thought the PS3 could have had another couple years before they released Gen 8. And certainly Gen 8 could have been lasted a lot longer than releasing Gen 9 in the middle of a pandemic. Okay. He then responds to a question about a hardware bottleneck and specifically mentions the Xbox Series S GPU with multi-platform games having to optimize for the lowest performer. Again, a sliding scale would negate that critique. I wish gamers understood what 60 FPS means in terms of all the things they lose to make the game run that fast. I don't know why this is so small. Especially taking into account that we have had a current gen console that's not much better than a last gen one. Okay. Okay. Series S GPU, mostly multi-platform games, always have to optimize for the lowest performer. I guess these are tweets that aren't showing up. The Series X? Series S? The Series S, exists though, and Microsoft won't let you launch on one without the other. An entire generation of games hamstrung by that potato. An entire generation of games. Wow. I think we need some proofreading people here. Anyway. Another follow-up tweet. That's not centered. Okay. Another follow-up tweet from Devon Hall showed just how little the senior developer thinks of the Xbox Series S. He said that there's an entire generation of games hamstrung by that potato. I think they proved that a potato could run Doom, so okay. And it's definitely not a potato, and it's very popular, especially in Japan, for size. Although the disk space is a little bit low at 500 megabytes. And if you add in the extra memory, then it becomes just as much as an Xbox Series X. Those issues aside, the reason why this generation is hamstrung isn't just because the Xbox Series S exists, though. Devon Hall explains that Microsoft won't let you launch on one without the other. It's this requirement which must be met for a multi-platform game to launch on Xbox consoles whatsoever, paired with the Xbox Series S's comparably less powerful GPU. That explains why Devon Hall believes the generation is hamstrung. Or just treat it like PCs and do a sliding scale. Or is that too much effort? And to his credit, he has since apologized for his posts regarding the Xbox Series S. Twitter users pointed out that his call for respect for developers is hypocritical if he's doing so while attacking the console's developers in the same breath. He also clarifies that while Rocksteady has the same parent company as Gotham Knights developer WB Games Montreal, he is completely unfamiliar with the project and doesn't know anything about its development or what may be limiting the game. Okay, so not coming from a position of strength and knowing about the subject, but coming from a position of weakness and being somewhat ignorant about the project. Okay. A lengthy post from him to close out his thoughts and step away from the conversation makes no mention of the Xbox Series S, but does say that any problems there might be with the current console generation are likely not the reason for the decisions behind Gotham Knights 30 frames per second. He says that he wanted to educate regarding some of the trials that occur in development and that development teams should always be free to make their game their way. Okay, that's a fair point. Further, he reiterates that any level of developer abuse or harassment is wrong and needs to stop. That is true. Something that everyone should be able to agree with. This includes crunch and setting arbitrary deadlines that must be met. Like some of the older Pokemon games, because they're part of the machine. Just spend some more time in the oven and create a better product. And is there anything else to this article? As the scrolling... Okay, that's that. Okay, so there's the first article. And then second article from Gamespot.com. Studios asking Xbox to drop Series S requirement, dev says. System has become Albatross. Many developers have been sitting in meetings for the past year, desperately trying to get Series S launch requirements dropped. This is October 20th by Oisinkunke. I probably butchered that, sorry. Okay, game developer that has claimed that many studios are trying to drop a requirement that their games have to launch on the Xbox Series S. As reported by VGC, VFX artist Ian McClure responded to a post from Jeff Gerstmann, formerly of Giant Bomb, who said that he believes that the Series S is holding back next-gen games argument seems really broken to me. McClure worked on the Xbox Series XS title I Am Fish, responded to this to explain that a number of developers actually do want the Series S requirement dropped. It might sound broken, but the reason you are hearing it a lot right now is because many developers have been sitting in meetings for the past year desperately trying to get Series S launch requirements dropped, wrote McClure. Studios have been through one development cycle where Series S turned out to be an albatross around the neck of production, and now the games are firmly being developed with new consoles in mind. Teams do not want to repeat the process, added McClure, whose account is now private at the time of writing. Okay. Again, if you create it like a PC game with a sliding scale for resolution and performance, why would this even be an issue? Continuing on. The Xbox Series S was designed as a more cost-efficient console, costing only $300, a whole $200 less than the Series X, which currently sits at $500, and $100 less than the PS5 Digital, which was $400, but is... I think the US did not have a price increase, so that should still be $400, and the PS5 should still be $500, if I'm not mistaken. This does come at a couple of costs, though, as the console targets 1440p resolution rather than the native 4K on the Series X. Again, sliding scale, anyone? There's also no disk drive, meaning players will only be able to play games digitally, which is obviously where Game Pass comes into the equation. Yes, that's the whole point. Gotham Knights was recently confirmed to run at a maximum of 30 frames per second, which Rocksteady senior character technical artist Lee Devenald seemed to suggest was in part due to the fact that the game was releasing on the Series S. Okay, that's the end of the article. Okay, so again, I mentioned this several times throughout the video, but one, it's not an albatross and it's not a potato. It's still a current gen system. Should be treated somewhat with respect. Come on. But most games are developed for PC and Series and PS5. Are they not? And PC games, as I've said many times throughout this video, they have a resolution, they have a wide range of resolutions, and a wide range of performance options, 30, 60, and should even be able to hit 120. Some Xbox games. Series games? Or are they one games that have been upgraded to the series? But some of them are clocking in at 120 frames per second. So, again, if a PS2 game can hit 60 frames per second in, when was that, 2003? There's no excuse that 19 years later, games can't hit 60 frames per second. Obviously, if they had taken the time to do performance modes or resolution modes, the Series X and PS5 would, well, okay, not obviously, but they should be able to do 60 frames per second. I mean, again, that was the developer's choice to just lock it to the Series S, which is the weakest performing console. And it's releasing on consoles now, but who's to say it won't release on PC in the future? Okay, so they may or may not release it with all of the modes that people are complaining are missing when the PC version comes out. And they might even patch the Series X and the PS5 versions to go for 60 frames per second. So, I mean, it's a lot to do about nothing right now. You create the sliding performance scale. I think you should always cater to either the middle ground or the high ground and scale it back from there. As long as you put enough time in the oven for the game to be done right. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. It was able to perform on PS5 and Series X and PC, I believe, despite being completely broken at the start. But the PS4 version was a wreck, and you needed to play on the Pro for it to have any sort of resemblance of a reasonable game. So, yeah, perhaps the problem lies in where they're coming from. They should be starting for the Series X and PS5, and then descaling the resolution and frame rate for the Series X. And that might solve some of the problems. Again, the Series S is a good console for a lot of people and is selling well here in Japan. I don't have one, but then again, if I were to get a Series console, it would probably be the X because it does have that disk drive. Yeah, so, I mean, I just think, again, it's 2022. Developers should be working on getting all of their games to 60 frames per second, regardless of whatever limitations they have or don't have. Yeah, so, I mean, and again, who knows what they could unlock with, as the Series S, they get used to programming it, get better at programming it. Games might improve. Who knows? And Xbox might release that streaming only console. So where are things gonna go from there? Anyway, so that was 2 articles on the Series S and its limitations or developer perceived limitations. I'm not saying they're not accurate, but I'm saying that there probably are workarounds that people aren't thinking about because a lot of people do lock themselves into certain mindsets, myself included, and sometimes we got to start thinking outside of the box. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, and until next time, have a good one.